Where'd Seth go? There he is. I'd like to call to order the August meeting of the New Bern Board of Adjustments, right on time at 6 o'clock. Seth, could we have roll call?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Peter Dillon.
Present.
Jim Morrison.
Here.
John Riggs. John Nero. Kit Paraguay.
Here.
Barbara Simpson.
Here.
Jonathan Foster. Ross Beatty.
Here.
We have a quorum.
You have a quorum. Are you?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
wish to announce I've resigned from the Board of Adjustment. I'll remain tonight in the audience, but my resignation is effective tomorrow.
Is your resignation effective this meeting or tomorrow?
It's your choice.
Okay, I think out of an abundance of clarity, probably today would be.
Today? Okay. Effective today. My misunderstanding.
Okay. Well, thank you, Jim,
Okay,
for
thank you.
your years of service here on the Board of Adjustment,
Mhm.
and good luck on HPC.
Yeah, I'll remain here.
Okay. For those in the audience, that does not affect the quorum. The quorum had been previously established, so we can continue to do official business this evening. Next order of business is the approval of minutes of the May 23rd, 2022 meeting of the Board of Adjustments.
I think first.
Mr. Chair, I'm not sure if that's indicated on the printed agenda, so you might want to get consensus from the members to add that item to tonight's agenda.
Okay. Can we have a motion from someone on the board to add approval of minutes to the agenda for this evening?
I'll make the motion to add that to the agenda.
Second that.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, everybody signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Like sign. So we have added to the agenda the approval of the minutes of the May 23rd, 2022 meeting. Any comments about the minutes as have been presented?
There were some corrections that Jim forwarded me that I got made, so that
Okay,
it should be good.
we need to make the motion for
Yes.
that. Okay, make the motion to approve the minutes as amended and submitted to the secretary.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of the May 23rd meeting as the written changes have been previously submitted to the Secretary of the Board. Any further discussion, comments about the minutes? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Like sign. Minutes are approved. Okay, before we begin tonight's hearing, I'd like to take a minute to explain to those in the audience the process that we'll be undertaking this evening so that you'll feel comfortable with the process as it unfolds. The Board of Adjustment is a quasi-judicial board. Consequently, everyone who wishes to speak tonight's hearing must be sworn in before speaking. The second important aspect of being a quasi-judicial board is that we may only consider substantial and material evidence, in other words, facts, in our decision-making process. We cannot accept hearsay, opinions, and emotions. The first step in the hearing process is for the application for the special use permit to be presented to this board by the city staff. Following staff presentation, the board will begin to solicit facts concerning 6 requirements specified by law. After each of the 6 requirements, there will be a public comment period where evidence will be presented to the board. After all 6 items have been presented, evidence heard, and closing comments made, the board will deliberate and vote on each of the requirements one at a time. Following the voting, the board will vote whether to approve or deny the application. So the first step is to swear in those who wish to speak before the board this evening. Seth? The first item on the agenda for new business this evening is consideration of a special use permit request for hotel use, code 1.510, located at 301 Middle Street. Property is further identified as Craven County Parcel Identification Number 8-002-C-064. Seth, would you introduce
Yes, sir.
this project?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to add to that, this is the former Elks Lodge. It's currently vacant. And you can see with the star on the screen there, the location, you guys can see it, the corner of Pollock Street in the middle. And we've got a zoom in here, you can see the subject parcel highlighted in blue. And I've got a nice shot of the Elks building. The property is in a C1 zoning district, as you can see here, a copy of the official zoning map. And the hotel motel use in C1 is a special use, hence tonight's meeting. The application was properly posted, and adjacent property owner notices sent. And we have a copy of the site plan, went through the design review committee review process. A little bit of a close in here. I wanted to point out to the board and the folks here that there was not any parking shown on the site plan. And the reason for that, one, the parcel doesn't allow for it. But this property is located in what's known as the Central Retail Core, which is adopted as Section 15-343E of City Code, which exempts properties in this district from off-street parking requirements. However, the owners have purchased a piece of land on the back side of that same city block. It's addressed 308 Hancock Street, and that's going to be converted into a parking lot for hotel guests. Further, the applicant has indicated they will likely request the encumbrance of existing on-street parking spaces for a loading and unloading zone for the hotel guests, which staff agrees will be necessary for the smooth traffic flow versus folks trying to stop in the motion lanes for loading and unloading. But furthermore, any encumbering of existing parking spaces can only be granted by the Board of Aldermen. So that any proposal will have to go before that board at some time into the future. So we recommend that this be a condition of the special use permit. Any loading and unloading zone must be approved by the Board of Aldermen prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy, which could be a few years down the road, depending on how long renovations take. And so we've got a map here that shows the Central Retail Core we're talking about. It's from Hancock on the west, Craven Street, the east side of Craven Street to the east, South Front to the south, and then the north side of Broad Street, making up the northern border. You can see our property again with the star. In this photograph, you can see the parcel of land at 308 Hancock. It's going to be dedicated parking for the hotel guests we discussed earlier. This photograph, you can see this the frontage of the structure on Pollock Street, and that's where the most likely loading and unloading zone will be. This 3 or 4 parking spaces along the front there will be the subject of the request. So the project was conditionally approved by the city's Development Review Committee on August 12, 2022. Staff finds the proposed project is consistent with the plans, rules, and regulations of the City of New Bern with no further changes. According to Section 15-146 of the Land Use Ordinance, a hotel must first obtain a special use permit to operate in the C1 zoning district. Staff finds that the applicant has met all the land use ordinance requirements. section 15-54 for a special use permit with the following condition. Again, a loading, unloading zone encumbering existing on-street parking must be approved by the Board of Aldermen prior to issuance of a certificate of occupancy for the hotel. Any questions for staff?
Thank you. Anybody have any questions for Seth? All right. This time I'd like to ask the applicant if they would like to come forward and give us the lowdown on this project.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening. My name is Christian Sotil. I'm the applicant for this special use permit, and we are very excited to be here with you all this evening. One step in a process of renewing and reviving the historic Elks Temple here in New Bern. As I said, my name is Christian Sotil. I'm an architect and historic preservationist. I'm joined this evening by Jason Hammond, who will be the project manager, and Sarah Ward, who is a historic preservation expert. So we are here, as Seth mentioned, for the special use permit for the hotel use within this building on this site, and we're happy to answer any questions about that. As staff mentioned, the site plan was submitted and reviewed, and we've been dialoguing with the city staff here in New Bern. We're very appreciative of everyone's help and support. And then after this evening, we will be continuing on with the hard work of working on the plans for the building so that we can bring them forward to the Historic Preservation Commission. So that will be our next step after this evening. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you all have about the application.
Anyone have questions for the applicant?
I have a few, just a few. The proposed parking spaces that would be encumbered for the loading and unloading zone. Seth, you mentioned it might be 3 to 4.
Yes, sir.
What does that end up in dimensions as far as, do we know?
So
The length of it, as an example.
they would be existing normal length parking spaces that would be adjacent to the building. That would be something that we would be reviewing with the aldermen ultimately as we move forward with the project. But they would be, typically what we see in a historic building like this is that those spaces immediately adjacent to the hotel that are needed for loading are the ones that you
Yeah,
work with the
so
city
basically
staff.
an ample amount for someone to pull in and then pull back out again.
That's right.
Board Member Dillon, at least by current code, parallel parking spaces measure 9 feet by 22 feet. These have been here for some time. I'd have to measure them, but we'll go with 9 by 22.
9 by 22.
And the second part of the question would be, with the encumbrance, does that preclude any other special things for ADA or anything like that? Because it's a loading and unloading zone?
It typically will actually accommodate, loading and unloading for if someone arrives at the property, it actually enhances the ability to load and unload right at the door. So from an ADA standpoint,
Okay,
that's kind of woven into the whole purpose of having that zone for drop off and pick up.
understood.
Is there an estimate of how many hotel rooms you'll be able to work out?
We're studying the building now. We believe it'll be approximately 45 hotel rooms on the upper levels.
Okay.
I have a question. Where will your extra parking space be? Because I know we're gonna be a hotel, a boutique, and a coffee shop. I know you're gonna need some parking spots. So where will the other parking spots be located?
So the zone that we're in is actually a parking exempt zone within the city because this historic building, built in 1908, it was built before the ordinance and so this zone of the city does not require the parking. However, we do, as a part of this project, we do have this additional parcel that staff mentioned that we would be using for parking to support the property. And we actually will be coming back to this group when those plans are ready to seek permission for that use on that parcel. So that will be a future application to this board.
Any other questions for the applicant? If not, thank you, sir, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, just as a point of clarity, I think the applicant brought some additional drawings to
Yeah.
demonstrate some additional uses. I think the primary use of the parcel, as is indicated in the application, is a hotel, but as Commissioner Sampson indicated, there is a coffee shop, a restaurant, and some other additional uses, and the applicant is prepared to address those as well.
Okay, I was going to deal with that under number 1, but that's okay.
Forgive me, I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. Is it more appropriate to do it now than when we start the process?
You can do it either way. The applicant is sworn, so you can consider what he's talking about now as your evidence.
Okay, if you will, and again, for those in the audience, to have a completed application considered, we need to see some plans of the entire use of the building. It's for a hotel, but all we have as a drawing is the first floor, which is not the hotel per se. So if you could share with us some ideas about the other floor use, the hotel use of the building, then we could have the consideration of a more complete application having been submitted.
Very good. Yes, I would be happy to do that. The image that's on the screen now is one of the historic postcards of the Elks Temple shortly after its construction. And what you see here is a mixed-use building in the spirit of many Main Street buildings here in New Bern. This being a particularly good example. And what you'll see is that it's a building that has frontage at the street level, where different businesses activate and have entrances right there on the street and sidewalk. And then the upper levels are for other uses. And the building has historically had many mixed commercial uses in the upper levels over the years, as well as the club rooms and the meeting rooms for the original founders of the building, the Elks Club. So that's just an overview. So as we look at the building level by level, I can give you an overview of our conceptual plans of how those uses would be distributed within the building. The image on screen here is the old Gaskin's Soda Shop, which was one of the more remembered uses on the corner there, Pollock and Middle Street. There for many years, later would become Dixon's.
Dixon's, yeah. Most of us, I think, are the Dixon age.
So that's always been an important, and I think as we've studied this building, it's really important to go back to those storefronts. So we looked at restoration of the facades and the missing elements of those storefronts. As we go back through the historic photographs, from a preservation point of view, really studying the character of the old traditional entrances that were there that had been modified over time in the 1950s and the 1970s. So really bringing back those historical storefronts that you see there. This is the Middle Street facade that's on screen now with the three larger rectangular openings. And then on Pollock Street, where the building presents four arched openings and one rectangular opening that's the corner that turns from Middle Street. So our plan is to restore each of the openings to its original configuration as best as can be determined from the historic evidence, so that they can be active again and the building can be reused. So as we look at the street level, really the main level of the building, the plan is for a restaurant and restaurant bar to be located along the Middle Street frontage with those three active doors, and then an active door on the corner of Pollock Street. The central entrance to the upper levels, it remains in its historic location on Pollock Street, and then the following two entrances would be for an additional commercial space that we're planning as a coffee shop to be a part of that street level use. So the street level uses are really primarily focused on the two main frontages of the building, on Middle Street and on Pollock Street. There is one additional commercial space below at the lower level, or the basement level of the building, that we are planning here. That there's a stair along Pollock Street that leads down to commercial space down below that also has been many things over the years, but also been vacant for a long time. But our thinking there is to extend some of the use from above and have a speakeasy, a bar down below in that lower level space in the basement. So altogether, we see the restaurant and bar being approximately 2,000 square feet of the building, the coffee shop approximately 800 square feet, and the speakeasy approximately 1,200 square feet. So that's approximately 4,000 square feet in the building, which is approximately 41,000 square feet, so about 10% would be these extra uses that activate the street. The upper levels, as we mentioned before, would be the guest rooms for the hotel, approximately 45. And there are some meeting spaces up there historically that we're looking at restoring as well.
Okay, any questions based on that presentation? And Seth, all the retail uses that were described for the first floor, they don't require a special use permit.
Correct, those are permitted by right. in
Right.
C1.
It's okay. So that's why the hotel is the only thing that we're dealing with this evening, and that's the only thing that requires a special use permit. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I guess that occasions a question on my part again. Are we going to revisit this to a certain extent once the design is laid out for the hotel in issues of life safety and things like that? Or?
No, that, not to my knowledge. If we issue the special use permit, they're free to go forth and create this document, which will be then turned, the building plans and so forth, and correct me if I'm wrong, will be submitted to the city for code compliance and things of that nature. Okay. I do not believe that this will come back to the Board of Adjustments.
Okay.
No, sir, that's correct.
Okay.
But, Mr. Chair, just to add to your comments, any of those health and safety issues should be, those are inquiries for you to make tonight. So if you have any questions about those elements, you can propose them to the applicant.
Okay. Yeah, item number 4, we'll deal with that when we get to it. Okay, thank you so much, appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
Okay, at this time, we'll begin going through the 6-step process required for a special use permit. And each step that we go through will be a time for public comment on each of these 6 elements. So that'll be the time that we have for public input as we go forward. Okay. The first requirement for a special use permit is that the requested permit is within its jurisdiction according to the table of permissible uses. Does the applicant like to make any comments regarding that? It's not required, but...
Yes. The hotel is a permitted use in this district with, by exception by the Board of Adjustments.
Okay.
Understanding, I believe, that's presented by staff.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to come forth and speak to item number 1, which is that the requested permit is within its jurisdiction according to the table of permissible uses? Okay. Anyone in the board have any questions about requirement number 1? No. Okay. We will then move forward. Hearing no public comment, we'll move forward to the requirement number 2, which is that the application for a special use permit is complete. This is where I think that we want to, as a board, accept the presentation that was previously presented to us just a little while ago as part of the application, outlining the complete use of the building from one end, from basement up, and therefore that it will be entered into the record that those things were shown to the board for consideration. Any comments from the applicant about whether the application is complete?
No, I respectfully appreciated the opportunity to share the projected uses from the building from top to bottom with you.
Okay. Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak to item number 2, which is the application is complete? And please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Mike Duffy. I live at 121 Morningdale Trail here in New Bern. So I'd just like to say I think that the Kessler Group has shown great respect for our history, and based upon their work in other cities and so on and so forth, I have no doubt that they'll complete a very suitable hotel for the city that fits very well with our objectives here. We have people coming out of the Volt Center learning the trades that are needed to help with work like this. And we can certainly use the extra revenue to finish, fixing the rest of this city. This is, some parts of the city really need the help. So thank you very much for your time.
Okay. Does anyone else like to comment on item number 2? The application is complete. Seeing no one approach the podium, we will move on to item number 3. If completed as proposed in the application, the development will comply with all the requirements of this ordinance. Again, the applicant has an opportunity to say something if he cares to.
Just to say the preservation and adaptive rehabilitation of this historic property will comply with all of the requirements of the ordinance.
Thank you. Now is the time for anyone in the audience that would like to comment about requirement number 3, that development will comply with the requirements of the ordinance. You're welcome to address the board. Seeing no one, we will move on to item number 4, requirement number 4. The use will not materially endanger the public health or safety if located where proposed and developed according to the plan as submitted. Again, the applicant has first shot at that.
I'd say the use will not materially endanger the public health or safety. Rather, it will enhance safety by structurally stabilizing a deteriorating historic structure, bringing it into compliance with applicable current building and life safety codes. And to answer Mr. Dillon's previous question, that will be reviewed, of course, with the building department, but there will be additional life safety and building exiting and egress systems added to the building.
Okay. Anyone like to, in the audience, this is your opportunity to comment on item number 4, that the use will not materially endanger the public health or safety if located where proposed and developed according to the plan as submitted and shown to us this evening. Okay, seeing no one approach, we'll move on to requirement number 5. The use will not substantially reduce the value of adjoining or abutting property, or that the use is a public necessity. The applicant?
This use will not reduce the value of adjoining properties, rather it will enhance the value of adjoining properties by restoring a beautiful historic landmark and encourage a vibrant streetscape with active ground floor uses.
Thanks, sir. It's an opportunity for the public comment on item number 5, that the use will not substantially reduce the value of adjoining or abutting property. You come forward and state your name and address.
Philip Peter Buffer Jr., 213 Shoreview Drive, New Bern, North Carolina. Appreciate your opportunity to speak in front of you. Welcome to New Bern. I hope you find New Bern as friendly and hospitable as I did 17 years ago when we moved here. So you talked about an asset. Father told me a long time ago, see is believing. So back in May, for my 29th wedding anniversary, my wife and I went to Charlotte, and we had the opportunity to stay in Charlotte and visit the Grand Bohemian Kessler Group building. Okay, It's absolutely phenomenal, okay? From the front door is beautiful. There, the lobby, you talked about the lobby and the food area. People walk in, have lunch there. I mean, I just can't tell you how phenomenal it looks from the area around the first floor to the lobby, to the upstairs, the hallways. It's an asset. Believe me, it's going to be an asset. If they put the same amount of time, effort, and money into this building that they did there, it'll be a jewel for the city of New Bern. So it's seeing is believing. Go up to Charlotte, look at the Grand Bohemian if you have any questions.
Okay.
Again,
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Is there anyone else in the audience who would like to comment on item number 5, that the use will not substantially reduce the value of adjoining property? Okay, we'll move on to requirement number 6. The location and character of the use, if developed according to the plan submitted and approved, will be in harmony with the area in which it is to be located and in general conformity with the plan of development of the city. Mr. Applicant? Applicant first.
Well, clearly, the project will be in harmony with the plan and character of the historic city of New Bern by restoring and reactivating one of its most significant architectural historic landmarks. Clearly, the location on Middle Street, Pollock Street, is a Main Street condition. So activating those frontages is clearly in keeping with the historic nature of the town and the purpose this building was built for. So, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Public comment. Again, state your name and address, please, for the record.
Yeah, same as before, Mike Duffy, 121 Morning Dove Trail, New Bern, North Carolina. I'd just like to say that, the opportunity is here now, and that the most likely outcome, if we don't move ahead with this, the proposal that we've been given, is that this building is probably going to end up being torn down, and that can't be a help to anybody.
Thanks, sir. Anyone else like to comment? Okay, seeing none, we have been through all 6 steps of the requirements for a special use permit, and we've had opportunity for comment from the public. At this time, I would entertain a motion to close public comment period about the special use permit.
So,
You have a motion
Second?
and a second. Any further discussion about closing the public comment period? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Public comment is now closed. At this point, we will bring all of these 6 steps back up again for discussion and comment within the board. And after each discussion period on each one of these steps, then the board will vote to approve or deny the approval of that requirement. So that's where we're heading right now. Okay, rehash. Requirement number 1, the requested permit is within its jurisdiction according to the table of permissible uses. Board comments, questions?
No.
The chair will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that, based upon the information presented, that the request is within the jurisdiction and meets the intent of the Board of Permissible Uses.
second.
You have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Could we have a roll call?
Yes, sir. Peter Dillon,
Aye.
Jim Morrison, Kit Paraguay,
Yes?
Barbara Sampson,
Yes.
Ross Beebe.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay. Requirement number 2, the application is complete. Any questions or comments about the board, including what we've seen in the earlier presentation from the applicant?
No.
Okay, then the chair will entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion that the application is complete.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Peter Dillon,
Aye.
Kip Pegboy,
Yes?
Barbara Sampson,
Yes.
Ross Beebe.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay. Requirement number 3, if completed as proposed in the application, the development will comply with all the requirements of this ordinance. Questions or discussions about requirement number 3 from the board? Hearing none, Chair will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, based upon the information presented, I recommend that this will comply with all the regulations.
Second.
Okay. Ms. Sampson, you second?
Yes, sir.
We have a motion and a second presented to us. Any further questions or discussion? If not, could we have a roll call?
Yes, sir. Peter Dillon,
Aye.
Kip,
Yes?
Barbara Sampson,
Yes.
Ross Beebe.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay. Moving on to requirement number 4. The use will not materially endanger the public health or safety if located where proposed and developed according to the plan as it is submitted. The board comment, questions,
Yes, I'd like to
discussion?
I'd like to ask a question though.
Yeah.
I know when you start, doing the work on it, will it entail closing down some streets? Yes. Will they, we had closing streets down, like, I know usually when they be building things, or you're in model things, they close sections of streets off. But will you all have to do that?
May I speak to that?
Yes, sure.
Okay. I think the idea would be to not have any street closures unless they're, temporary to connect a utility, but the work will be limited to the building itself, and most likely the sidewalks adjacent to the building itself will need to be closed for some period of time during the exterior restoration, but the streets should remain open. The
Will there be
vast majority.
canopies over the sidewalks?
Probably a protective
Yeah.
fence.
Okay.
We would work on that with the building department to determine the final safety plan for that.
Okay. You okay, Barbara?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Can we have a motion?
Yeah, I make the motion, that the use will not materially endanger the public health or safety if located where proposed and developed according to the plan as submitted.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further comments or discussion? Do we have a roll call?
Sir. Peter Dillon,
Aye.
Kip Pegboy,
Yes?
Barbara Sampson,
Yes.
and Ross Beebe.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay. We're to our favorite item, number 5, which is a 2-step process. And I'm going to kind of reverse that today and say that the first phase of this we want to deal with that is the use of public necessity. Any questions or thoughts from the board? If not, I entertain a motion.
I just have a thought on that.
Okay.
I mean, that's always been a problem for me with the public necessity part of it. However, I would say based upon some of the testimony that I've heard and the witnesses' testimony, because it will benefit New Bern as an overall project, that this will definitely be a good thing for the city. I don't know if I can characterize that as a necessity, though.
I totally agree with you, but I don't think that's the intent of this question, in that this is a governmental type of requirement or, for condemnation or anything of that type of nature. I agree with you 100%, but I think the intent of this question is that this is required for public safety use, and enhancement of the public. Any questions, further comments? Did we have a motion on that? Yeah, we need a motion.
That this is a public necessity.
That it is not a public
It is
necessity?
a public necessity.
Your motion is that it is
Yes,
a public
it is,
necessity?
yes.
Okay. She's made the motion. Is there a second? Okay. The motion dies for lack of a second. Is there a secondary motion?
Maybe I misunderstood, the question about public necessity, the bill of public necessity, you saying not public necessity?
My understanding of the question is that it is not a public necessity as intended by the question.
As intended by the regulations?
Yes.
Yes. I'd make the motion, I'd make the motion that, as required by the regulations, this project is not a public necessity.
I second it.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Thank you, Barbara. Any further discussion about this aspect of number 5? You got a roll call?
Yes, sir. Peter Dillon,
Aye.
Kit Paragoy,
Yes.
Barbara Sampson,
Yes.
Ross Beebe.
Yes.
The motion passes.
The second part of that requirement, number 5, is that the use will not substantially reduce the value of adjoining or abutting property. Comments or questions from the board? Okay. Board will entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion that the use will not substantially reduce the value of adjoining or abutting property.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion, comments? We have a roll call?
Yes, sir. Peter Dillon,
Aye.
Kit Paragoy,
Yes.
Barbara Sampson,
Yes.
Ross Beebe.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Okay. Requirement number 6, the location and character of the use, if developed according to the plan submitted and approved, will be in harmony with the area in which it is to be located and in general conformity with the plan of development of the city. Discussion, questions? Chair will entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion. Location, character of the use, if developed according to the plan as submitted and approved, will be in harmony with the area in which it is to be located and in general conformity with the plan of development of the city.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further comments, questions from the board? Roll call?
Peter Dillon,
Aye.
Kit Paragoy,
Yes.
Barbara Sampson,
Yes.
Ross Beebe.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Okay. We have looked at all 6 of the requirements for a special use permit and have voted affirmatively on each of the 6. The next step would be, do we approve, as a board, do we approve or deny the special use permit? Any questions, comments about that? If not, we'll entertain a motion to approve or deny.
Mr. Chairman, I make the motion that we approve the application.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the application for a special use permit. Any further comments, questions? Roll call?
Peter Dillon,
Aye.
Kit Paragoy,
Yes.
Barbara Sampson,
Yes.
Ross Beebe.
Yes.
All right, the motion passes.
Okay, in the original presentation that was offered by staff, there was a suggestion about adding a condition to the special use permit considering the parking unloading zone in front of the hotel. And is there any thoughts or comments about attaching that language to the special use permit?
Okay, we're coming.
That occasions a question for our legal counsel. Since the alderman will need to approve of the encumbered parking spaces prior to certificate of occupancy, do we add that also, or?
You certainly can, Mr. Dillon, if you find that it is prudent from a health and safety perspective to add a condition about that loading and unloading zone, you certainly can attach that condition. And if it comes out later that there's some additional information that needs to be revisited, then it can be addressed at a later time.
Okay.
So I guess we should add that as a condition then.
That's our option. And so Any further comments or questions about that, the adding of that condition, about it going to the Board of Aldermen for approval of the elimination of the parking spaces to create the loading and unloading zone?
I would say we should do that, even though, given the scope of the project, all of that will be in the more or less distant future. But as a condition of the permit to start the process, I think that would be recommended.
Okay. Well, the chair will entertain a motion to add that language to the special use permit.
I'll make the motion.
Okay?
Second.
You need to state the condition on the
Yes. Okay. The special condition that we are adding to the permit, special use permit, is a loading, unloading zone encumbering existing on-street parking must be approved by the Board of Aldermen prior to issuance of a certificate of occupancy for the hotel.
Was that the condition that Mr. Beebe was referencing in his motion?
Yeah, do you want me to read that out again?
As long as we can incorporate it, it'd be nice to have it in the language of the motion.
Yeah, I make the motion that a loading, unloading zone encumber the existing on-street parking must be approved by the Board of Aldermen prior to issuance of the certificate of occupancy. Is that what you, is that?
Yes.
Okay? We have discussed and are recommending the addition of a condition to the special use permit. We'll entertain a motion to attach this language to the special use permit.
I think that was Mr. Beebe's motion.
You made a motion.
Mr.
Okay,
Dillon,
we need a
I-
second.
I second.
Okay, have a motion and a second. All in favor, signify, we're gonna need a roll call on this one.
Peter Dillon,
Aye?
Kit Peregrine,
Yes?
Barbara Sampson,
Yes.
Ross Beebe.
Yes.
Motion passes with the condition.
Okay. I think that concludes the process that we need to go through as the Board of Adjustment to approve a special use permit for the work that has been described to us so adequately. And to echo some of the comments you've heard from the audience tonight, something that we, as New Bernians, are truly looking forward to. And good luck, and thank you for your presentations this evening. So with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
There better not be any discussions about it. Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion is to adjourn.